Hello, Foundry. How y'all doing? Sorry I missed last week. Had a little vacation. Got to see the grandkids in South Carolina. It was very good. Just like you all, they're growing and facing all kinds of new challenges. My. Aren't the challenges that we have in 2020 different? It really is. I've got to tell you, I've been on this earth for a good many years. I can't remember quite as an unusually challenging time for an entire world. And as we go along further and further, the more complications they come along the way, the more strange it becomes. The decisions don't get easier, they get more difficult. What will we do? What will our government do? What will our school system do? What will we do about college? What will we do about work? It gets complicated. Life is complicated, but man, we put that on high burner on this one. It's really amped up in a big way. And that is something that we all have to deal with, myself included. Which brings something that we need to all face and look at, but especially these days, and that is the area of fear. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to take a look at fear, what the Bible has to say it is, maybe some strategies that we can work with it. Could I say this? You will never eliminate fear from your life. Not totally. You cannot eradicate it. Why? Because God placed it within our lives. If you're absolutely fearless, you're probably dumb. Because if you're going to go into a cage with a 1,000-pound lion that hasn't had supper in the last few nights, and you're going to say, "Doesn't bother me, I'm fearless." No, you're just dumb. You're just dumb. So, I don't want to give you the impression at all that fear equates a lack of anything. It's something that God has placed within all of us. It's a proper response in the midst of difficulties when we don't know what to do. Sometimes it's something given to us to avoid the dangers, like a big lion. But regardless, you're going to have fear. Otherwise, there's probably something wrong with you. So I'm talking to 99.9% of everyone out there. We all have it from time to time. And in these days, maybe more than ever. I don't really know who's looking at these things, but if some of you are seniors that have graduated and you're looking at college, there's a big fear. Go on campus, don't I go on campus? Going on campus, will I be safe? If I contract the coronavirus, will it be okay? Will I give it to my family? If someone says you need to go to this party, am I going to need to do it? Am I afraid that I'm going to not fit in? Will I be able to handle all the coursework? If I'm going to have a job while I'm there, can I handle this? You see, fear is something that is ongoing. It's very complex. And it really, wherever you are, it hits us from place to place, time to time. How do we handle it? Well, excuse me, I've got frogs in my throat. Honest to goodness, I'm healthy. But as we look at fear and as we wrestle with fear, what I want to do is give you a little bit of help along the way, myself included, because these things are important for me to look at along the way as well. The big decisions, the small decisions, the unknowns that are looming before you. Let's take a look, at least tonight, this afternoon, whenever you're looking at this, at a very, very brave man. In fact, if I asked you, outside of Jesus, could you name 5 brave people, especially in the Old Testament. Who might they be? And I can almost guarantee that either at the top of the list or very near the top of the list would be David. Why? Because we remember what David did. Remember, a young man, probably not much more than 17 or 18, takes a slingshot, goes before a huge giant, the most massive, imposing person on the face of the earth, and he says, I'm not afraid of you. I will take you down in the name of God. And he does. And just that one thing alone puts into our minds and the minds of the people today as well that David was a brave person. Now, when you look at that, we're not going to look at that today, but when you look at that passage, you will find that David's bravery was not just, I'm a big man and I know what I'm doing, because he wasn't a big man and he didn't know what he was doing. He had never fought anyone. He'd fought animals, but he'd never fought an individual, especially a trained soldier, as massive as Goliath was. So his bravado, his bravery, did not come from his own ability or knowledge or anything. It came from a trust in God. So you say, okay, David is a lousy example because look at what he did. But you know the story, I hope, of David. After he fought Goliath, then he really got into hot water. Because Saul, who was the king at the time, became very jealous of David, and he made it his life's ambition for the next 20 plus years. He made it his ambition to kill David. And he chased him from cave to cave, forest to forest, city to city, ever increasing the pressure on him to kill him. So, what was David's response? Well, listen, man, I killed a giant. I'm not afraid of you. No. Well, God's going to take care of me, so I'm going to, come on. No. That's not what he did. And I think that's important for you to understand. God is not expecting you as a Christian to live a fearless life of having no problems and no struggles and no fears around you of what you're having to face. It's not what he's not asking you to do that. He is asking you to grow in your fear, to grow to faith. That's what he's going to ask you to do. That in your fear, do not be stymied, do not be held back, do not run over the other direction in your fear, but will you begin to learn what it is to trust me? Okay, let's take a look at what I was telling you about Saul, the King Saul, who is wanting to get rid of David. Here's what it says in 1 Samuel 21. If you have your Bible, and those of you that we got new Bibles for, I'm reading from the New Living Translation. Great translation. It's from your Bible. And it says, so David escaped from Saul and went to King Achish of Gath. Now, Gath was enemy territory. It was not Israel. In fact, this was Goliath's hometown. What? It was. David, what in the world do you think you're doing? We said, man, I have nowhere else to go. I don't know where I can run to. King Saul is on my trail, and I need to go to a place where he won't just easily come in and try to take me away. So he goes to enemy territory, and he goes to an enemy king, and he tries to find shelter here. Was that a good idea? No. Hey, can we be honest? Fear often leads to poor decisions. I mean, it's true. If you've made a decision based upon fear and fear alone, got to get out of this. I got to do something. I got to save myself. And if that's what you're doing, strictly led by fear, you could be like David. You're going to make some dumb decisions. I can guarantee you, as we'll see in a moment, by the time he stepped into enemy territory, he was thinking, I'm not sure I made a good decision. In fact, we got an old phrase for that. Out of the frying pan, into the fire. You think the frying pan was bad? The fire's worse. Okay, so he goes to King Achish. But the officers of Achish were unhappy about his being there. Well, duh. They remembered him as the ones who embarrassed them and defeated their champion, Goliath. Isn't this David, the king of the land? They asked. Isn't he one of the people that the people honor with dances and singing? Saul has killed his thousands and David his 10,000s. Isn't this the guy? David heard these comments and was very afraid of what King Achish of Gath might do to him. Do you know what he did? We won't read it. He acted like a crazy man, spit drooling down his beard, because a crazy person in that culture was not someone who was welcome to be there. And they threw him out. They threw him out. The next chapter goes on. So David left Gath and escaped to the cave of Adullam. He's hiding out. He's by himself. As soon as brothers and all his relatives joined him there, and David stayed in the strongholds of the wilderness and in the hill country of Ziph. Saul hunted him day after day, but God didn't let Saul find him. One day, near Horesh, David received the news that Saul was on the way to Ziph to search for him and kill him. So here he is. He tries, because of fear, makes a dumb move, and he goes into enemy territory. He gets out of that. He hides in a cave. And as soon as he hides in a cave, he finds his family there, which is going to slow him down. And Saul is hot on his trail. Man, his blood pressure must have spiked. He was breathing heavily. He was sweating profusely. He didn't know what was going to happen. He was about to have a panic attack. And that's when it hit him. I need to pray. Why? Why do you need to pray? Why do you need to pray? See, oftentimes we wait, and myself included, wait until the last moment where there's nothing else to do, and they would say, well, I better pray. God, I don't think David did that. I think David was praying all along. But one of the neat things about the Old Testament is we get to see some of those prayers. And so Psalm 34, we're just going to take a couple of verses out of it. I encourage you to look at the whole psalm, because it's a tremendous psalm. It's a psalm of David while he was hiding in the cave of Adullam. Now, if it were my prayer, I'd say, God, what are you doing? God, this isn't fair. I killed Goliath for you, and look what you're doing to me. You know, that may have been our prayer, my prayer in particular. That's not David's prayer. Verse 4, Psalm 34 says, I prayed to the Lord and he answered me. He freed me from all my fears. Now, I want you to look at that. I prayed to the Lord and he answered me. Whoo! So David is now not any longer going to be chased by King Saul because God answered my prayer. Yahoo! No, it's not what happened. If you continue on reading in 1 Samuel, you'll find that Saul continued to try to kill David. Well, wait a second. Didn't it say he answered my prayers? See, this is something now, if you can learn this, you will be doing far better than the adults that haven't learned this yet. That is, when God answers your prayer, he doesn't always solve all your problems. Did you get that? When God answers your prayers, that doesn't mean he takes all of your problems and moves them away from you. I was reading this week in a book, and it was wonderfully said. We need something, not what is being said, but who is saying what is being said. The important thing is not what is being said, but who is saying what is being said. You see, when David recognizes the power, love, grace, awesomeness of God, all of a sudden he says, my fears are gone. Why? Because he recognizes that God is there. He's there. See, when we are so troubled by our fears, we don't see God. What do we see? Our problems, our fears. We see our problems, our reaction is our fear. That's our reaction. Problems, fear. But when David begins to pray, he doesn't see problems, fear. He sees God, fearlessness, trust. Because he knows who God is. Do you know who God is? Really? Do you know who he is? I'm serious. Do you know who he is? Do you know him? Have you spent any time with him? See, many of you, unless you're in church here, really don't know me. If you've not been on a mission trip, well, you don't know me. You know what I look like. You may know the glasses that I wear. You might even know that I'm the pastor of this church. You know a lot of things about me, but you don't know me. You know how you know me? You got to spend some time with me. Then you know. Then you may not like me, but that's beside the point. But you get to know me only when you spend time with me. The only way you get to know God is you spend time with him. Guys, if you're working, going to school, making new friends, doing all kinds of stuff, wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. You should be. But make sure you're spending some time with God. Okay? Because if you're not, when fear comes, you see problems and the reaction is fear. You don't think God, and the reaction is trust. So, Psalm 34:4, Psalm 34:8, taste and see that the Lord is good. Oh, the joys of those who take refuge in him. And there he talks about, you know, if you see a great meal in front of you, it just looks so inviting. Whether it's hamburger and french fries or Thanksgiving turkey and all the trimmings, whatever it is, whatever you want to see, and you're hungry and it looks in front of you, boy, you say, wow. That's the next thing is, when can we eat? You don't say, that's beautiful, and walk the other direction. You don't do that. You partake in the meal that's placed in front of you, and when you taste that Whopper or whatever it is, you say, wow, that was so good. Give me another bite. Oh, that was good. I want another bite. And you just take in as much as you can. God, until you are really digging into his truth and love and mercy and grace and hope, you will not be like the psalmist. Because he says, taste and see that the Lord is good. You got to not just say, oh, that was nice, beautiful. And no, you got to say, whoo, I got to take this to myself. I don't say, listen, you eat this big meal for me and tell me how it was. That's a lot of times the way that we do church. You read the scripture, you tell me what it is, and that's good. Well, that's only part of it. If I'm doing my job well and you are really doing your job well, when I say, look at this, you know what you do? You look at this. You're not just satisfied with me eating it and telling you how good it is. You say, I got to do this for myself. Third verse. Verse 17. The Lord hears his people when they call to him for help. He rescues them from all their troubles. The righteous person faces many troubles, but the Lord comes to rescue each time. Now that sounds awfully good. Can I say, you may still have problems. I'm not supposed to sneeze on camera, but I just did. Okay. You are going to have problems. So is God going to say, I'm going to take care of all your problems? No, but he's going to take care of your fear. He's going to continue to rest. You're going to be able to rest in him and learn of him and grow in him. And these problems, they may not go away, but now you have something, a strategy. It says, God, when I see the problems, I want to see you bigger. I want to see you more. I want to spend more time on my relationship with you than on the problems that are facing me today. And when you do, you're going to feel that inner peace. When you look in the scriptures, you're not going to see every time somebody's in trouble, God lifts them out of that situation. You know how I know that? Because I know what happened to Jesus. And Jesus, who is the only one who never deserved anything bad to happen to him, God does not rescue him from the cross, but instead takes that and turns it into something unbelievably, magnificently great, your salvation. And he may even take something that happens in your life and turn it into something marvelous that you never anticipated. But there's one thing I can tell you. God will be there. But you won't know it if you don't seek him out. So in your fear, be afraid. You should be. You should react with fear. But don't stop there. Keep going. Look to God. Learn of him. Begin to trust. Okay? Hey, thanks for watching. And see you next week. Bye-bye.